You see, people want to see the gifts of the Spirit operate. They want to see God's power move. They want to see healing. They want to see miracles. You know, the devil's trying to convince everybody, oh, you don't chase miracles. No, they chase you. Now, I just shot that lie of the devil down. They chase you. And if they're not chasing you, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. I'll just be honest with you. I'm not saying that to get on to you, make you mad or anything, but the truth is the truth. Everybody in here ought to be able to say, I prayed for people and seen God do things for them. And if you can't, I can tell you your biggest problem is you're just not praying for people. That's your first thing you've got to do. And if you'll start praying for people, God will come through on His end. But we've got to be able to display the power of God. So, and one of the easiest ways is through the 9 gifts of the Spirit. So tonight, this is part 2, and it's the gifts of the Spirit, and tonight I'm going to talk about the rest of the vocal gifts. Now, last week, I started with 2 of the vocal gifts. The vocal gifts are tongues, interpretation of tongues, and prophecy. But people will read 1 Corinthians 12 and 14, and they will try to put everything that's said about tongues in the gift of tongues and interpretation of tongues, when there's actually 3 types of tongues being talked about in those 2 chapters. Now, I call it the ministry of tongues because that way it's easier to keep everything categorized. But there's actually 4 tongues that's in the Bible. You have got the gifts of the Spirit in tongues, which is tongues and interpretation of tongues. You have your heavenly prayer language, okay, and that is to edify you, to build you up, not the church, where tongues and interpretation of tongues build the church up. Then you have, and I called it praise and worship, I'm going to start calling it your singing tongue. That's easier to understand. It operates exactly the same way as your prayer tongue does. But then if you go to the book of first 2 chapters of the book of Acts, or the second chapter of Acts, when the Holy Ghost fell, they were preaching and teaching in unknown tongues, and the people were hearing them in their language. Now, let me just spend a second on that. It is possible that you could preach to someone in an unknown tongue and they understand every word of it because that's their language.